Hello, my name is Markos Moulitsas. I am the founder of Daily Kos, and this is Daily Kos' The Brief. Today, we are talking to Ilyse Hogue. She is president of NARAL Pro-Choice America. And Ilyse, we've known each other for, 15 years maybe. I've met you when you were at Move On, and we were the weird people that did politics on the internet. Do you remember?
I do. We're getting old, Markos. We're getting old.
We were so old. I actually quickly Googled you a little bit ago, and I saw that it was very controversial when you were picked to be president of NARAL at the right young age of 40, 40 something, right?
Yeah, right about 40. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you that. But it's been interesting seeing that a lot of the people that came up with when I was like this young blogger. And the people that were working in organizations doing digital work are now kind of running the place. So I'm glad to see that. It's glad to see the success we've seen with my friends. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm very excited to talk to you. I'm not excited about the state of the country. And 2020 has been a piece of shit. And
punctuated by last night, let us say, on the debate.
Piece of shit. And I don't think any of us needed Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg to pass away at this junction in history. And I know I just wanted to curl up in a fetal position and just shut out the world. Can you talk about how it felt for you, and how do you pick yourself up to do the work you're doing? Because this is literally your life's work.
Yeah, I mean, it was a body blow. It was a body blow. There was no question. It sort of like brought back a lot of that visceral muscle memory of the day-to-day grueling fight against Kavanaugh. It brought into sharp relief what I know to be 40 years of strategy by the GOP in their undemocratic attempt to capture the court to move an agenda that doesn't have popular opinion. And, as you point out, I've worked on a lot of different areas of social progress and social justice in my career. But in my current job at NARAL Pro-Choice America, I think it was both a substantive blow in that we know a 6-3 conservative majority does spell the end of Roe, and with it, the promise of agency and autonomy and dignity that all women could enjoy. But it was a symbolic blow as well, because we lost a giant. We lost a woman, a legal mind with whom we always felt safe being on the court, whose incisive brain and wit would rock our opponents back on their heels. And it was a rough moment. But you know what? We did what we always do. We picked ourselves up. We had such an infusion of energy from our members, reminding us why we do this work every day. And they were like, you know what? Let's fight. And I was like, you know what? That's what we do. When I say we were made for this moment, it's because we know how to fight.
So I see the fight as being sort of 3 prongs. There's the battle to try to keep that seat empty until after we have a new Senate and a new president. There's the battle over electing a Senate and president that will be friendlier to liberal ideology and priorities, policies. And then there's the what do we do after we're elected to mitigate the damage that has been done by that 30, 40-year effort that you just talked about to reshape the courts despite in the face of public opinion, and particularly as we diversify and become a more pluralistic society. So that first prong, is there any chance of us keeping that seat empty this year? Do you see any avenue for success there?
So, one of the strategies they employ is coming out as a unified front and saying we have the votes, because their subtext to that is don't even bother, because they know if we disengage that they have a clear runway and a clear pathway. I see the first 2 prongs that you laid out, and I think that's a perfect structure for the fight, to be completely intertwined, right? We have to drive up the political price of ramming through this confirmation. The people do not want it. The vast majority of Americans believe they should pick the president, and the president should pick the nominee. And by doing so, making some of those senators who came out quick, think about what that means for them in 2020. and 2022, by the way. And let's be clear, by the schedule they put out, they would be taking this vote days before the election, after people have already started to vote. So any glitch in their plan, any one of their senators peeling away, kicks this into lame duck session, and we can win the election and have more control. So we have to fight like it's winnable and drive up the political price in the process.
No, that's a great point, because McConnell thought he had the votes to overturn the Affordable Care Act, and they were talking confident. And of course, at the very last minute, John McCain, amongst others, gave the no and killed those efforts to eliminate Obamacare. And the entire time, McConnell was saying he had the votes. The entire time. Do you see any specific Republican senators that are ripe for flipping, that right now have said they're going to vote in order to move the nomination forward?
Well, I think the obvious ones, the ones who are going to pay the most immediate price, being Cory Gardner in Colorado, obviously, Martha McSally in Arizona. But Lindsey Graham, are you kidding me? I mean, Jamie Harrison is going to win that state, and Lindsey Graham can pay a terrible price. Now, is he going to flip? He might not. He's the chair of the Judiciary Committee, but they have got to feel the pain at home. And the other thing I will say is that this move of McConnell and Trump to ram this nomination through over the protests of the American people have put even more states in play, right? Mike Espy in Mississippi made more in the first 48 hours after RBG passed than Cindy Hyde-Smith, the incumbent in Mississippi, had made in all of Q2. Alaska is in play, right? It reminds me, speaking of our long history, of 2006, when the Americans had soured on the war, and we just kept seeing the states in play expand and expand and expand. And I think some of those senators are going to get real cold feet when they see the momentum growing. Yeah,
those of you watching this show, if you want to be really smart with your friends, mention that there's a very good chance that Joe Biden may win Alaska, because it's actually seriously in play. And he doesn't need Alaska. It's only 3 electoral votes. But we have that critical Senate seat in Alaska and a House seat as well. And in any case, we want to win as many states as possible. And Republicans love to brag about all the land that they win. Alaska's a big state. So one of the reasons I really love NARAL, and I always have, is that it's always been very electorally focused. So can you talk a little bit about the work that NARAL is doing to flip the Senate, to help Biden get elected, and to preserve our House majorities, and anything else you may be working on as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are running our largest electoral program in the history of the organization. Everything is on the line, and we are acting like it. We are leaving it all on the field. We have this awesome opportunity because we have 2.5 million members all over the country who are highly engaged. They've been trained in all sorts of things, from spotting and combating disinformation, from cultivating their own social networks, and being well-versed in what we call courageous conversations, which is actually moving voters around these issues, not just of abortion rights and reproductive freedom, although obviously that's our lead, but the embedded racism and misogyny in that is pulling so many of these soft partisan suburban women away from the GOP. And the threats to healthcare, of course. So we are doing our Senate series. We gather all of our members every week. Last week, we called into Michigan on behalf of Gary Peters. This week, we're calling into Iowa on behalf of Teresa Greenfield. She's going to send Joni Ernst packing. Meanwhile, on our independent side, we are doing surround sound with some of these soft partisan suburban women that can make the margin of victory in states like Georgia and states like South Carolina, Arizona, Iowa, Maine. And so this sort of converges together so that voters who are on the edge actually get it from their social networks. They get it in their mail, they get it in their calls. And we think we're seeing real progress.
I definitely love the idea of suburban college-educated white women. I've been a broken record about how that's the only swing demographic, and it's the reason we have the House. 38 of the 41 House seats that we picked up in 2018 were suburban House seats, and it's not suburban men that are switching. It's not, unfortunately, they're still sticking with Trump. I'm curious, though, you're an organization that is predicated on defending the rights of women to their own bodies, to have agency. Are you seeing any impact on your membership from those suburban white women? Is that a sort of a growth area for you, or are you still not really becoming partisan liberal? They're just voting that way for now.
You know what, we have one of the things I think we lose as progressives is that we have so much opportunity to expand our base that we're not even taking advantage of without tapping into sort of the swing women who are swing by definition, right? They're going to go back and forth. And so we are actively expanding our base, especially in the states that we have like real on the ground presence, and that base we've hardly hit the ceiling on. We hope some of these voters that we're contacting will join for the long haul, but though we see that as a very specific way to gain political power, give us an opportunity to fight another day and continue to expand our base within, the cohorts that actually really want to fight. They want to go to the state legislatures. They want to lobby federal Congress. That is going to lead us to the kinds of not just protections, but expansions of reproductive freedom. All of the other issues that we see as critical to that, like democracy reform, you alluded to that earlier. And those are the folks that we expect to swell our ranks moving forward into advocacy post-election.
And that's a good segue into that sort of reform and democracy issue. And especially if the Republicans are successful and they have a 6-3 majority in the U.S. Senate next year, starting, this October. Obviously, all these liberal efforts are all going to get struck down. I mean, it's almost a guarantee. No expansion on women's rights, on labor, on the environment, etc., on healthcare. It's all in peril unless we have a better court. My position has been is that Democrats need to be aggressive in threatening to expand the size of the court, not just the Supreme Court, but the court system. All those circuit and district courts that have been packed by Republicans, is to threaten to expand them all and fill them with new liberal judges. So the math would be kind of simple: is you fill that seat, or if you don't fill that seat, it'll be likely a 5-4 conservative majority next year. If you do fill it, you'll have a 6-3 majority this year, but a 7-6 minority next year. But Democrats don't want to make that argument. Do you have first of all, do you even agree with the idea of expanding the court? And second of all, if you do, why aren't Democrats more aggressively threatening Republicans with that math, with that equation?
So let's be really clear. The GOP, we've talked about their 40-year strategy. Their 40-year strategy was to move what they knew to be an agenda that did not enjoy popular opinion. Absolutely true on abortion rights, true on lots of these other things too. So what do? 3 things. They capture the courts, which has been going on for quite a long time. No question, ramming through this nomination is endgame for them. They suppress the vote, which I'm sure you'll have other guests who know more about that than me, and they spread disinformation. We actively take a role in all of those conversations, and we think that accepting the idea that we could win the election but live with a balanced court for the next 30 or 40 years is not a solution to anything we work for. I'm proud as a Democratic Platform Party Committee member to have filed the language on court reform, the first time it's ever been in the Democratic Party platform. And we absolutely have a conversation about what, as Leader Schumer says, is everything in our toolbox. As for Democrats, I don't know if you saw Ezra Klein's piece this morning in Vox, but I was taken by the fact that Biden actually didn't reject the idea of court reform in the shit show of a debate, as Dana Bash said last night, and left that door open just as it's in the platform. It is a long overdue conversation, and we are absolutely committed to doing member and voter education about what that means so that we can stiffen the spine of Democrats who do seem a little timid sometimes, not all of them, right? Some of them are out there on it, but need to get more unified in the fact that anything other than a real robust conversation about what that looks like lends us to a GOP agenda for decades, regardless of outcomes of elections. And that is not democratic.
Right, exactly. So at least one more question. I'm still being asked by people, what can they do to affect the change, to help Democrats win this November? Is it too late for them to help out NARAL's efforts? And if it's not too late, what should they do?
Absolutely not. Please join us. Like I said, We're doing weekly call parties, and that's in addition to regionally based activities that will focus on everything from your state legislature all the way up to the top of the ticket. Go to NARAL.org, sign up for our Senate series. You will be contacted by an organizer and get plugged in. If you don't do it with us, do it with someone, because silence is complicity. Inaction throws it to the other side. It's going to take all of us together to get this over the finish line.
Ilyse Hogue, NARAL, thank you so very much for joining us. I am Markos Moulitsas for Daily Kos' The Brief. Thank you very much.
Thank you.